All those in favor? We did, I'm sorry. All those in favor of extending the meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Order. What time are we extending it till?
It just says the motion on the floor says we're extending it.
Indefinitely?
The motion on the floor states that we're extending the meeting. There's not a time specified. If you'd like a time, ask the person.
Well, I'm going to vote against this motion. I'll make another motion to actually set a time.
All those in favor of extending the meeting, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
Motion carries 3-2. Item E on the agenda is administrative concern, but I'm sorry if I seem very nervous. I'm not used to getting letters at my home. On December 12th, I am in receipt of a letter. Dear Chair Corcus, we, the administrative team of the Hooksett School District, would like to make the members of the Hooksett School Board aware of an email communication attached. It was attached, sent from Hooksett School Board Clerk John Liskars on December 10th and December 11th of 2013. In two email communications, Mr. Liskars invites all Hooksett School District employees to utilize his personal telephone number as a convenient hotline. The email communication sent by Mr. Liskars not only advocates for circumventing appropriate protocol, but it blatantly solicits complaints be made directly to him so that he may unilaterally decide how a complaint should be addressed as indicated by his statements. We find this communication to be inappropriate and highly concerning. We are greatly offended by the implication that we as administrators have been negligent in our professional responsibilities to ensure the education, safety, and well-being of our students and staff. Mr. Liskars' communication is counterproductive and creates an environment of confusion and anxiety. We respectfully request that the Hooksett School Board take action to address this matter. I will provide a copy for you to include in the minutes, and it is signed by all of the administrators from the Hooksett School District. What is the will of the board regarding this communication?
I think reading it into the record is adequate.
Yes, Mr. Liskars.
Well, since it involves me, I thought maybe you'd like to give me a chance to address it.
That's why I'm asking what the will of the Hooksett School Board is. Go ahead, you have something to say.
Tech Director, we need you.
I apologize for fiddling. It's a little difficult to do that. I just want the public to know what we're talking about here. I'm just going to hand out to the board members. Hooksett School District Board Employee Communications Policy. It's HSD file BHC. Again, we don't have this stuff online, but if you want to go to my website, www.hooksett.net, and just search for BHC on your cell phones. The second form I'm handing out is policy JLF. It's Hooksett School District reporting child abuse or neglect. I have enough copies. One to you for the record. To bear with me, I have something prepared here. I just didn't think it was going to take priority tonight over high school issues, so, but since it has. Okay. So again, I want to apologize to this board for making John Liscar center stage again, but we're going to go forward with this. First of all, when I read this formal and official complaint letter sent directly to the Hooksett School Board Chair, I was flabbergasted, shocked, and disappointed. These same administrators, some of whom were responsible, and I'm sorry they weren't here tonight because I actually wanted to address them in person, face to face.
They're all here, they're in the front row.
Oh, they're in the front row? Great, I'm glad you guys are still here because I wanted to speak directly to you. These same administrators, some of whom were responsible for my own children's grade education in the Hooksett school system, wrote a letter of complaint making some very strong accusations which I believe are baseless. Those are highlighted up there. My unofficial communication to the staff before the holidays was supposed to be taken lightly, as I spoke of Santa, the naughty and nice list, and the Education Matters confidential hotline, which is my own personal cell phone number that is listed everywhere, so everyone should know that is my number. The serious side of my letter was the fact that I wanted the entire staff to know, from teachers all the way through to Dr. Littlefield, that as an elected Hooksett School Board representative, one of my jobs was to be there for them as well, and if anyone ever needed to speak to me unofficially, I was most definitely available. A simple phone call from one of the principals could have cleared this up easily. However, I take full responsibility for any miscommunication that has occurred because obviously nobody understands my sense of humor or my message that I am here for the Hooksett staff members as well to be supportive to them. What concerns me is the violation of policy committed now and the lack of understanding of the staff members. I do not blame the staff members as it has become obvious to me that they are not properly trained in current Hooksett School Board policies and procedures. The staff has violated Hooksett School Board Policy VHC, Hooksett School District Board Employee Communications, because it specifically states for staff communications to the board, and I quote, "All official communications or reports to the board or any board committee from principals, supervisors, teachers, or other employee members shall be communicated through the superintendent for appropriate inclusion." These staff members not only address the chair of the Hooksett School Board directly, circumventing the authority of the superintendent of schools, they also put pressure on her with, "We respectfully request that the Hooksett School Board take action to address this matter." So I have a motion to perform a full review of the training provided to Hooksett School District staff, including administrators and teachers and aides associated with the education of Hooksett students. And I'll speak to that if I get a second.
I'll second for discussion. And I have a question.
Sure, do you want to ask your question now, or do you want to wait?
Can you repeat that motion?
Yep. It's a simple motion to perform a full review, or I should say, for the Hooksett School Board, to perform a full review of the training provided to Hooksett School District staff, including administrators and teachers and aides associated with the education of Hooksett students.
My question actually is for the chair, just to verify. Mrs. Cortez, you said you got the letter at your house. I also got the letter, but I don't have it with me. Is it from the superintendent in any way, or is this directly as stated from the administration? Or if you'd like me to look at the letter, I just would like to know if
It addresses me, and it was sent, it addresses me and gives the address of the SAU office, but it came to my home. I don't know how it came to my home, it came to my home.
so it's not signed by the superintendent.
No,
Thank you.
it's right up here. It's signed by the superintendent,
Right.
signed by the administrators of our district.
So if you don't mind, public, I don't have another copy.
But I'm going to read you the highlighted parts. Again, as Mr. Pearl pointed out, it was addressed directly to Tricia Corcus, and it was addressed, Dear Chair Corcus. The key here is, it says, the email communications sent by Board Member Liscars not only advocate for circumventing appropriate protocol, but blatantly solicit complaints be made directly to him so that he may unilaterally decide how a complaint should first be addressed as indicated by his statements. So I'd like to address that. In my letter, and I'm willing to read this whole letter to people so they can kind of see, this is just before the holidays, kind of my humoristic approach at sending something to the staff. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to highlight the points that prove that what they're claiming here is not true. And I think what it is a misunderstanding, and I take full responsibility for that, because it's me that communicated it.
I have a point of order. I'd just like to consider, John, before we move on. My feeling is that this letter is a violation of the policy and been brought to this board improperly. I think perhaps the board should rule on that or consider that first. Because if the board takes this up, and in fact, this has no standing here, that this should not be here, I think we're making a mistake, regardless of, and I don't mean to impede your facts, Mr. Liscard, but I guess it's a matter of standing. Is this been brought to the board in a proper manner, or is this a product of a violation of the policy of the board? Because if it's a violation of the policy, I don't think we should discuss it. If anything, I think that would be, explaining that. I think that's the first question.
Just a point of
Dembo
order.
had his hand up.
Just a point of order.
No, not a point of order.
No, a point of order, right, can't be interrupted. I have a motion on the floor. Are we speaking to the motion right now?
No, David has a question.
Right, that's why I think we've
And
gone down
Bill
to,
Dembo now has a question.
what
I
does
don't
it have
know.
to do with the motion?
I don't know, I haven't asked.
Mr. Dembo?
It's similar along the lines of David just talking, I guess, around the topic, so.
You shouldn't do that during a motion.
So let me try to straighten this out. Mr. Liscard, would you be willing to withdraw your motion at this time? I would agree to second this motion again if it's proper, if we bring it forward, so that we could decide this fact first. And I'm sorry I didn't bring it up before you made your motion, but I was trying to contemplate, that's why I asked the question about the superintendent's signature. I would ask that we could settle this first before we get down the road.
All right, that's fair. I'll remove my motion.
And I remove my second, and I would like to make a motion that we consider this letter as a violation of policy BHC, and therefore, we will not discuss the contents of this letter tonight.
I'll second that.
I think we need to kind of take the emotion out of this. I am reading directly from the policy. It seems to me, unless I am missing something, that this letter, be it factual or not, should have been given to Dr. Littlefield. And if Dr. Littlefield felt that it should have come to this board, then he should have brought the letter. It could have still retained all the signatures of the administration. But it clearly says communicated through the superintendent for appropriate inclusion. I am not, my motion no way reflects on the facts of this letter or lack of, but the process.
Does Mr. Dunn?
So, in the same policy here, I'm reading on board communications to staff, which predicated this letter, which was this whistleblower hotline message thing. All official communications policies and directive of employee interest and concern will be communicated to employee members through the superintendent. So that email that went out that predicated this letter and the response went directly to all the staff and didn't go through Dr. Littlefield.
Yes, Mr. Whispers.
So you're right, Phil, the point is, it's not an official communication.
You signed it, the clerk of the Hooksett School Board.
I sign all kinds of stuff as well.
From your
I sign all
SAU
kinds.
email.
And you guys have taken my SAU email, it doesn't matter, I still sign my stuff as the Hooksett School Board. It is not an official communication from this board.
But how does the staff know that if you signed it, the Hooksett School Board
We'll
clerk?
talk about that in my motion. The staff is not properly trained right now. And that's obvious because they're filing motions directly to the chair of the Hooksett School
They're
Board.
frustrated and they don't know how to get you to stop.
That's your opinion now. Now you're being
No, they're
rude.
sitting there.
You're
They
being
sent a
rude.
letter.
Madam
You're
Chair,
being rude.
I'm asking to be recognized.
Mr.
Okay. Mr. Dembo,
Yep.
I would not say that I disagree with you about the second part of this. However, I'd also say two wrongs don't make a right. The letter that has been presented to us, I think we need to decide if that's done correctly. There is no reason that this letter couldn't have been presented by Dr. Littlefield in line with the first policy, and then we would look at number 2 and decide, was that letter a breach of board communication to staff? So I don't think we should be in the business of saying, well, yeah, you know, one might be wrong, but two's wrong too. I would be totally willing to bring up any allegation of policy violation. I think this board just needs to follow the proper procedure.
David, I'm not saying two doesn't still make it right either, but one predicated the first, I guess is what I want to say. So, again, I think the staff was probably frustrated, didn't know what to do, address Phil, whatever, so all the folks that signed this letter that are from his staff wanted to get it communicated to the board, so. I understand what you're saying. I
But
understand.
I'm just saying they could have expressed those same concerns through this policy, and we could be talking about it right now, those concerns. But I think Mr. Liskos has a point, that clearly the facts that we've seen clearly are not in alignment with the DHC. I think we need to decide that without bias.
Can we,
Dr. Littlefield was CC'd on this letter, and it was coming out of the SAU office, so am I right to assume that Dr. Littlefield, you were apprised of this letter coming out to the school board, or you weren't?
I'm CC'd on the letter like everyone else is CC'd on the letter.
Madam Chair, my understanding of CC would be that it is not going through him, but yet it is going also to him, as it also went to me and also went to other members of this board. CC is not, there's nowhere in there where it has his approval or signature or anything else.
I don't know, I don't get how we work this, when we do this, we start at the back end and front end and work backwards. So David says, I guess we pull it off the table and talk about the staff, which they were at the end of, and they're frustrated, and they wrote, sent us a letter based on what happened in the email that they got. So what do we do, deal with that first, and then we don't deal with the original, stepping out of the policy here? You know what I'm saying? You know where I'm going? I don't know. But I just want to get this thing taken care of and move on. I don't know how we do that. I want the staff to be able to obviously be recognized for what, they felt was an inappropriate email sent directly to them. And whatever that contains, I don't know.
I'm not opposed to discussing the nature of the letter, but just as we do with every other procedure, from someone having to come up here and give public input, or all the other rules that we have, this is not, in my opinion, in line with these rules. And I think we have to decide that in an unbiased manner. No matter how you feel about the letter that was sent, what we're discussing here is the manner in which the letter was sent.
At the end of the day, I want to support our staff, obviously, but we should be looking to do that. That's all I'm saying.
Think about what you just said.
Just for the record, I want to say I also support this staff, the entire Hooksett staff. Just for the record, Mr. Dembo.
Mr. Dembo, I would not support the Hooksett staff if what their action was is in violation of our own policy, because I've sworn an oath to this board. It is nothing against the staff or their concerns. This is a procedural matter. They have filed this directly to the board. And the irony is, the same exact issue is being brought up against Mr. Liskar. We need to decide this unbiased. Yes or no, does it fit this criteria? I've seen no evidence here to say that this letter was sent through Dr. Littlefield, which this procedure clearly states it's supposed to. What am I left with?
Dr. Littlefield, would you like to, you're looking over there like you want to speak, then you look like you don't want to speak, so, I don't know.
What were you asking? What did you say?
We walked over to your mic and you were kind of looking like you wanted to speak.
No. Nope. I just think it's, too bad. 2 days I'm meeting with parents of 168 high school kids. And that we can't get beyond some of this. Sorry for saying that.
Madam Chair, I thoroughly agree, and that's why moving this up in the middle of my wanting to continue the high school situation irritates me further. But that's irrelevant. It's here, it's on the table, we have to look at it, let's make a decision and move on.
David, so what are you suggesting we do?
I made the motion.
What was it? Read it back, please.
This letter is a violation of VHC and therefore will not be discussed tonight.
I speak to my motion. I don't think we can make a practice of discussing issues here that are in violation of policy unless we're discussing the violation of that policy. Otherwise, I don't think we have any credibility as a board, regardless of how you feel about the contents of the letter or the concerns of the administration.
What about the initial violation of policy? I guess we table everything? Or not table it?
My motion is simply saying that we're not going to take this up. If this letter comes to us through a channel, if Dr. Littlefield, because, well, let's consider this by the rules and why the rules are there. The administrators have this concern. My understanding is they're supposed to bring it to their superior. He then decides, does it raise to the level to bring to the board? But he has not done that. So it shouldn't be here. That's all I'm saying.
We have a point of order here. We have BHC policy, but Dr. Littlefield and I weren't given the other policy that you handed out, John. What was that, and what relevance does it have to this issue?
I'm not going to discuss anything any further until we get past this. You want to keep discussing this all night long?
Well, Dr. Littlefield just asked what the other policy was.
If you would like to discuss this all night long till midnight, I'm ready to stay here. I think we should be discussing high school issues, but it doesn't matter to me. Whatever this board decides is the most important thing to you to discuss, I will sit here and discuss it. I am just saying right now, this letter that we are discussing is a violation of our own policy. So I have, I've got things to talk about to you all tonight. We'll see what happens. Part of mine was a motion I've withdrawn, so I can't speak to that motion yet. I will.
Dr. Littlefield, if we acknowledge or let the staff know that they're communicating directly to the Hooksett School Board is not in compliance with policy BHC, they would present that letter to you and you would bring it forth to us if you felt that it was deemed worthy of us being aware of it. Is that my understanding from the policy? If they had a complaint, that's how they should address it to us.
While I'm just contemplating that, can I just ask one question? Then wouldn't that letter be addressed to Dr. Littlefield? To say, Dr. Littlefield, these are our concerns.
Well, I just have to just give me 32 seconds. Just biting my tongue. Just give me a minute.
Madam Chair, I'd like to motion we take a break. I mean, I think this is going to go on a little bit, isn't it?
He's asked for a little.
I just want to address it. And I want to address it honestly and openly without fear of reprisals, retribution, and being called anything by anybody in a social media situation. The effectiveness of an organization is,
I'm not going to excuse myself.
I'm going to go with you, Dave. The effectiveness of an organization.
My motion failed, but I have to go.
The effectiveness of an organization, and just bear with me, because you know what, this has been building up for a long time. The effectiveness of an organization is directly related to and a function of the culture of that organization. And the culture of this organization has been changing rapidly and negatively. It will manifest itself in the performance of our kids. I don't do this as a hobby. I've been a superintendent longer than a lot of people in this room, and longer than a lot of people have been alive. Yeah, it's all in me, though. When the people in an organization are put in situations where they don't know how to respond, it's going to be a matter of some concern to the board of directors. You know, policy applies in one situation and it doesn't apply in another situation. Very interesting. We hand out a policy, public record, reporting child abuse and neglect. I'm not sure what that's got to do with anything. I would be fearful I don't do this as a hobby. I do it because I have to earn a living and because I support a 95-year-old mother. My job is important to me. The last time I forwarded something to this board, I paid for it. So maybe this is like really, really good. Maybe all of this should stop. You know what I find very interesting? Just give me 30 seconds and I'll shut up. I find it very interesting. No one has asked me in 6 months where I would send my kids to high school. Made a lot of assumptions, kicked the shit out of me kicked the dickens out of me on social media. For stuff that I never said and positions I never took. And things that I don't really believe in. For those of you who don't know me, I was an urban superintendent for 25 years, a city superintendent. I spent my lifetime advocating for poor minority kids. So believe me, I'm not adverse to an urban education. But you make some assumptions. And I don't want to make this about me. This conversation concerns me deeply. I will cut off my right arm for my administrative staff and to support them. I don't care what the consequences are. But this has got to stop. There is a certain fear that permeates the halls of our schools. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with it. You know why? Because I'm afraid too. I can't believe I'm saying that. I'm afraid for my own security. And that just shouldn't be. We should be discussing issues. We should be debating issues. We should be taking opposing sides on issues. We should be learning from each other and each other's point of view. And we should be safe in doing so. I don't feel safe. My administrators don't feel safe. My teachers don't feel safe. And you know what? They came to you as a last resort. Policy, no policy. Sometimes when you're complaining about me, you don't have to follow policy, but when you're complaining about somebody else, you do. It's got to stop. As a board, you did some really good work tonight. And I don't know why we can't do that all the time. It really has got to stop. These people are desperate, and they're representing people in classrooms that are scared. I'm scared. We're going to get down to the business of what our primary function is, and it's the intellectual development of young minds. And I would challenge anybody. If you can't make kids your first priority, screw, get out. And I'm done. That's got nothing to do with the thing. The last time I brought something to the board that had come to me, I paid the price for that. I paid the price for it. I can't afford to pay the price.
Mr. Flynn?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Littlefield, for your comments. I respectfully like to get back to the motion that's on the table. It's late, we've got a lot of stuff to do. I made a motion, no discussion of what we need, but I think we do need to move on. I agree with Dr. Littlefield, it has to stop. But I think as board members, we have got to follow policy. And we cannot take policy and put it aside when we want to and follow it when we don't. We've got to follow it. I'm asking the board whether or not the letter is consistent with the policy. Again, has nothing to do with the content of the letter or the integrity of the people or any of them. Does it meet the policy or does it not? If it doesn't meet the policy, does this board want to be considering things that are not brought to us in the proper policy? Let's make our decision. Let's move on.
I want to say for the record, I have an 81-year-old father that's failing health right now. It's one of the reasons I was late tonight. It's one of the reasons I'm late a lot. I also feel physically threatened by a lot of the people in this community that attack me. I feel threatened by my own board members that attack me here in public session. They attacked me recently when I wasn't even at the board meeting. I was 5 minutes late. Plenty of time for Mr. Denbo to read a baseless claim. They spent $325 to spend on an attorney, and guess what? We haven't even heard that attorney's opinion yet. You know why? Because the attorney said it's baseless. But they don't want to tell you that part. They just want to keep searching to find out what can we find on Mr. Liscars and set him up. We should be talking about the high school issues. That should be our #1 priority tonight. And you see how quickly this agenda item shifted to the top of the pot. I am disgusted by this. And just for the record, I would cut off my right arm to support the children and the administrators in this community. Thank you.
Yes, Mrs.
First, because it was brought up several times, the reason why I moved this up was because I realized that the administration was still here. I thought they had all gone home. And I realized that they were probably here because of this item. And because they need to go and educate our children tomorrow, I felt that that took priority so that they could go home and get duly rested to deal with our children tomorrow. And that is why I do feel that it was priority.
Mr. Denbo, you had your hand up before, after Mrs. Axton.
Yeah, so, talk about the elephant in the room thing. I'm going to be fairly brief, but along Dr. Littlefield's line, I have to speak a little bit. So, I've written this up actually, and it's much longer than I'm going to read. It's only going to be a couple paragraphs I'm going to read. I've written it up weeks ago because of around these issues Dr. Littlefield's reference.
Madam Chair, point of order. May I ask?
What he's speaking to.
May I ask him if it's to the motion of whether or not the letter is a violation of policy? It's the motion on the table. I'd like to move into this if we're going to, or move away from it. We've had a lot of latitude here with people talking about stuff way off the motion. Could we please decide the motion?
David, that's part of it. Other folks have their say, so now I just want to speak for a little bit, okay? I know she didn't yell point of motion when John was talking, so again, it's speaking to what he was speaking to. Again, I'll be brief. So, and he also mentioned about the whole attorney thing, so I'll go there too. So to make an analogy, I look at our time on the board morally very similar to when I joined the military. Other vets and most volunteers on town boards should know what I'm talking about. Whether you raise your right hand to help your community or raise it to help your country, there are basic ideologies that apply to both. Sadly, there are minimal ramifications
Point
if
of order,
someone...
Madam Chair.
There are minimal
I don't know, you have to
ramifications
speak. When you speak, we let you make your point.
if someone
He's trying to
decides...
speak to whether the letter is policy. He's talking about military service.
Sadly, there are minimal ramifications if someone decides to walk the line by flip-flopping between being a private citizen and being a board member when it suits them. One person's First Amendment rights should not trump common decency and respect for the institution of the school board and the people on it, as well as administrative staff. Most people that work on boards are able to disagree, but do so with class and integrity. First of all, I will offer to pay out of pocket for Ed Kaplan's legal opinion on this issue if John and Dave offer to do the same for every request for legal opinion, right to know requests that emanated from them since they've been on the board. Just a ballpark, and this is for Phil, and he can answer whenever, but can you give me a ballpark number on the right to know
Madam
requests
Chair.
or written legal opinions?
Point of order,
to
please.
everyone
Point of order,
during their
interrupt the meeting. This has nothing to do with the motion on the table. I am asking you to call the discussion into the subject of the motion.
Mr. Dembo, if you could hold, we'll vote on the motion and then you can have the floor. All those in favor of, we have a new policy that you restate the motion for us before we vote on it?
The motion is that this letter is a violation of VHC and therefore will not be discussed tonight.
All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
No. I make a motion that we waive policy BHC and we take the administration's complaint. If I get a second, I'll speak to it.
Second.
I am asking for a waiver of this policy at this time. I understand that the administration must be very frustrated in order to go to these lengths to communicate to the Hooksett School Board. And I think that we need to address this, and also based on what Dr. Littlefield has said about the culture of our schools and how people are feeling who work here. I think that is very concerning to me as a school board member and as a parent. Yes, Mr. Pern.
Madam Chair, I don't know if it's because it's late. You just said it's not a violation. Now you're motioning to waive the rules so that you can talk about it as if it was a violation. I mean, which is it? You said it's not a violation, then you can go ahead and talk about it. There's no waiving of the rules because this board's determined that a letter sent to you is not a violation, when actually, clearly, we all know it is. No matter what you think about the letter, let's be honest, but this board hasn't. So pick away, let's get on to something serious or go home. I'm sick of this.
No,
David,
let
how-
a feeding frenzy. Go ahead, go for it.
Why do you have to waive the rules for something that's not a violation? Don't just talk about it.
Just go for it. Talk about it, whatever you want to talk about. Go for it.
It's right there. If you're waiving the rules, are you going to waive the rules now and Mr. Listar's is not a violation either? Because you waived the rule. So we can just move on.
Mr. Brembo?
I just want to make sure we acknowledge our staff and their complaint, regardless of how it arrived here, and then move on. And I want to make sure that they feel like they've been heard, because obviously they made a point of staying here, and then I want to move on.
I agree.
Administrators, do you feel that we heard your complaint? I guess I'm asking you directly. I'm sorry. You have to apologize. I volunteered. I'm taking a 5-minute recess.
Me too.
Action.
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
Just a brief statement, and we were sorry for the project pause there, but we just kind of had to confer with each other. You know, we understand that the board has heard the question you asked, and we appreciate the response that you've heard our concerns. You know, we're speaking as a unit, cohesive unit. You know, we do understand that the communication went down, but you know,
Yes, we do, you know, again, very much appreciate that this has been heard at the board level, and we do understand the communication question there. You know, but we did want to make certain that we got this message out there. We wanted, you know, knew kind of what had happened previously with other communications that were sent, so we simultaneously sent this letter to the Hooksett board as well as to Dr. Littlefield at the same time. So we're very happy that you guys have had an opportunity to take this and to listen, you know, to our concerns about what's going on.
and we intentionally sent this to the board because, you know, we did receive an email too from Mr. Liscars asking if anyone was coerced in signing this letter, and that was not the case. And we just, that's why we decided to send it to all the board members, and we talked to Littlefield out, Ms. Pollock, and Mr. Liscars.
Could you repeat what you just said? You received another email after you sent this letter?
Yes, we did receive another email in regards to that. in regards to this, and as Mr. Benson said, a question whether or not all of us had signed of our own will, if you will. But as we said, we're happy it was heard, and we'd like to move on.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Absolutely.
Do you feel that your communication was consistent with the school board policy?
They've already acknowledged that. They've already acknowledged that it was inconsistent. They already said that why they did what they did.
I don't think that they said it wasn't. I just asked them if they said that it was consistent with school board policy.
Well, the board's already answered that question to the board, but
I'm asking a question of you. Mrs. Corcus asked you a question. I'm asking you a question.
I'd like to go back, to be quite honest with you. The policy was violated by Mr. Liscott first, and then obviously the way the board might have interpreted that, then we should have gone to Dr. Wilson.
That's all I was asking. Thank you, Mr. Benson.
And we actually did, and I really want to point out that fact that we did simultaneously inform, and, you know, copy Dr. Littlefield on this as we sent it out to the board, because of the concerns that did exist.
I'd like to answer Mr. Harris's. I do realize that, and the reason I brought it up is because the policy says the word through the superintendent. Thank you.
I just want, the two of you sitting here in front of me, I just want, and I'm glad you're here actually. My words, I try to put them as clearly as I could to make sure you understand that I accept full responsibility for the miscommunication. I also apologize to both you or to any of your staff that felt afraid or threatened or anything else by some of the words I've heard floating around here tonight. That was not my intention, okay? My intention is to make sure you understand that I am here for you as well. And I miscommunicated that, obviously, that generated this letter. The reason I'm pointing this whole thing out about policy is really not a dig on you. It's really to point out that we need to get you guys trained and your staff trained in these policies. Not just this one here, but all of the school board policies. So it's just a sidebar on this. The main issue though is that you're concerned about what I sent you in an email or multiple emails. And the only thing I can say is like I said in the letter, I take full responsibility for it. It's not your fault. It's my fault for miscommunicating to you. And I apologize to you and to anybody that was hurt by that. There's nothing else I can do. I mean, if you want to punish me or something, then I guess we can talk about that, but that's all I can do, you know? And have I learned from it? Sure. We all learn. We all make mistakes. So I've learned. I learned a lot on this job, but, you know, I'm not a professional school board guy. I'm really a soccer coach that I'm in here trying to fight for the same thing you are, which are the kids of this community. But I just want you to take away from here tonight, because you put a lot of your time in here tonight. When you walk away from here, I want you to know I am fighting for these kids as hard as you are. And I'm also fighting for you. Okay? I want you to take that away. Thank you.
Moving on to item A, which is review of the manifest and actions related thereto.